Ross. In this week's episode, we will be recapping what happened in Week 7 in the NFL, as well as I'm going to go over the Thursday Night Football preview for Week 8 as well. So let's jump right into Thursday Night Football from Week 7. That was the Jaguars versus the Saints. In this game, obviously, the Jaguars hopped out to a big lead at first. It looked like the Jaguars were going to completely dominate the whole rest of the game. And then the Saints actually made a little bit of a comeback in the second half. The first half was some very ugly football by the New Orleans Saints offense. The defense was playing pretty decent. They were kind of holding the Jaguars, but it just kind of broke through. The Jaguars offense was playing well. Travis Etienne continues to play incredible football for the Jaguars offense there. I think he's scored 2 touchdowns in the last 2 or 3 games in a row now, which is just a wild statistic. Not a lot of running backs doing that right now in the league. So that running game's really getting going for the Jaguars right now, which is a very good sign for the offense overall. Keeping a balanced offense for a Doug Peterson-led team is a very strong indication that it's going to be a team that can last the entire season, and they're going to be good going into the playoffs as well. They've obviously put a stamp on the AFC South now. They're 5-2. Obviously, the Houston Texans didn't really have a dog in the fight this week as they had a bye, so they couldn't really respond with their own win or loss at this point. But they're now second in the AFC South, and I think that's going to be the 2 teams that I think compete for the AFC South going forward. The Colts now with Anthony Richardson out and Gardner Minshew in there as the quarterback. I don't think they're really going to compete long term this year for the AFC South title. And then, I don't think anybody else is going to compete other than the Jaguars and the Houston Texans at this point. Jaguars get a big win on Thursday night. Saints offense still looks very shaky. Derek Carr doesn't look very good, unfortunately, for Saints fans. A lot of weird miscommunication there. It looks like some of the wide receivers like Chris Olave was stopping their routes early. Miscommunication with a hot route with Alvin Kamara. And Derek Carr is getting increasingly frustrated with the way the offense is operating, and I don't know if they're going to fix it this season. But if you're a fantasy manager and you have Alvin Kamara, you hope that the offense never gets fixed, because Derek Carr, when he can't find anybody open, he's just dumping the ball off to Alvin Kamara, and he is getting so many fantasy points. It's ridiculous, especially if you're in a 1-point PPR type of league. Let's move on to Ravens versus the Lions. This was one of the games of the week here. Obviously, the Lions have been hyped up. They've been good. I've considered them Super Bowl contenders going forward. And then they lay a complete egg against the Baltimore Ravens at home in Baltimore there. But I will give the Ravens credit. I knew the Ravens were a better team than what they've shown the first few weeks of the season. Todd Monken, new offensive coordinator, Lamar Jackson trying to get used to a new offense in general. And I knew at some point it was going to begin to click. And this game was just all of it clicking at one time. Essentially every play call, everything that the Ravens did on offense worked on Sunday. It was really wild to watch. I wasn't able to watch the game in full or in totality on Sunday. I was doing a lot of different things, and I had Red Zone popped in and out. But I was able to go back and rewatch the full game on NFL Plus, and it was wild. The running game was going for the Ravens. Gus Edwards had a good day. Justice Hill got in there. Everybody was catching balls. Odell Beckham Jr. was in the offense, and he was active. Rashad Bateman was catching balls. Zay Flowers catching balls, and Mark Andrews was definitely making a huge impact on the offense as well. So they had everything going on Sunday. And then the Ravens defense was playing out of their mind as well. Their pass rush was getting after them. The defensive coordinators calling perfectly timed blitzes and just getting after Jared Goff, putting him behind the sticks after first down, and then just when it was 3rd and long, they were getting to him. And it made it a very, very long day at the office for Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions offense. I don't think this is a complete indictment on the Detroit Lions in totality. I think this is a situation where Jared Goff is a much better quarterback at home than he is on the road. That has been a proven fact. But he's played better this year than he has in the past in that, department. But what I will say is when you take away the run game from Jared Goff in that offense and you make them pass the ball on those long 3rd down situations and stuff like that. Every offense is going to struggle in those situations if you do that. But Jared Goff especially, he gets a little bit antsy in the pocket whenever it's those situations. And so essentially the Lions need to keep the offense, ahead of the chains. They need a first down that gets them 3-4 yards, if that's through the run game or a short pass or something like that. They need to stay ahead of the chains in order to be an effective offense. And I think they'll figure out ways to kind of get around that. Ben Johnson's a smart guy, so he'll figure it out. But just not a very good showing by the Lions. Some people say the Lions are completely exposed at this point. I won't say that completely. I think they have the chance to really figure out some discrepancies in what happened between this game and the games in the past where they won. But I don't have any crazy thing. Like, I still think the Lions are making the playoffs. I still think the Lions are going to be a tough out in the playoffs. So, like I said, not a huge indictment on them necessarily, but I will say this was a stamp game by the Baltimore Ravens. They did everything they needed to, and they look to be a AFC juggernaut at this point. And I think I like them to be in potential there for the 1 seed going forward. Next game, we're going to go Bears-Raiders. Not much to say about this game other than I have to say something about Tyson Bagent. The dude had a great game. Didn't have like crazy statistics by any stretch, but he was incredibly efficient and just got that offense in and out of the plays and just was passing the ball to guys that were open and obviously getting the ball to his playmakers, which they don't have a ton there in Chicago right now, but he was getting it to DJ Moore. Deontay Foreman had an incredible game for them on Sunday. He had 3 total touchdowns, so that was really nice. They had a running game against the Raiders defense, which is very lackluster, obviously, this season. Just not a good defense in general. Just the fact that the Raiders drop a game to a rookie quarterback, undrafted out of Shepherd, Division II, just a crazy story. Good for him, though. He's going to have a chance again, potentially, to play Sunday night if Justin Fields can't make it back with his injured thumb. So we'll see if he can relive the magic again this upcoming Sunday. Next game, we have Browns versus Colts. In this matchup, this was a really crazy one. I would have never expected the score to be as high as it was, but it is what it is. The Browns get the job done. They're scrapping and clawing their way through these wins without Deshaun Watson. They started the game with Deshaun Watson. He left in the game. He was medically cleared to come back and didn't, and it's just another chapter in the saga of Deshaun Watson and just the weird situation they have going on with him right now. I don't know if it was his shoulder, he didn't want to come back in and risk it, or what was going on, but he threw a pick right before he left for the game, and then I guess PJ Walker came back in and got the job done for them. The Browns defense, even though the Colts scored a ton of points in this game, the Browns defense was playing out of their mind. Myles Garrett making multiple plays. I mean, he looked, if basically there was like a triple-double for a defensive player in football, that's what he got on Sunday. He was all over the place, getting sacks, getting forced fumbles, batting balls down. I mean, he was doing anything and everything. He is one of the best players in all of football. He is maybe arguably the best defensive player in all of football right now. So he's playing out of his mind. Browns get a huge W to stay in competition in the AFC North there, and they're looking pretty good. If they can get Deshaun Watson back kind of healthy, they'll be a pain in the rear for everybody, obviously. Next game, Patriots versus Bills. What a disaster for the Buffalo Bills. Last week, obviously, they had a lackluster performance against a bad Giants team at home. Barely got out of that with a win. And then this week, I thought personally they were going to bounce back and have one of those games where they just like completely just railroad a team, and Josh Allen throws for 1 billion yards and has 1 million, missile strikes to Stephon Diggs for touchdowns in this game, and it just never presented itself. First play on offense for the Bills, Josh Allen throws a pick, and it just from then on, the game was just a really odd football game for the Bills. Right now, the Bills, Josh Allen even said in the press conference after the game, he was like, if I knew what the problem was, we would fix it. Like, everything's looking a little bleak right now because they just don't know what's wrong with the offense and why it's doing what it's doing. And really, for me, I think personally what the Bills are dealing with right now is I don't think they have a passing game designed where they can just like kind of dink and dunk their way down the field. They can't just really carve up defenses right now. I don't know if it's the way that the play calling is. I don't know if it's the play designs. I don't know if it's Josh Allen refusing to throw, a 10-yard in cut or a 15-yard post to the outside or like a counter. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. Because basically when they win, it's when, like I was just kind of describing, where he's throwing piss missiles all over the field and he's just hitting Stephon Diggs on 40, 50-yard bombs here and there. Gabe Davis is getting in the act, which he was completely a ghost on Sunday against the Patriots. They finally got Dalton Kincaid going a little bit in this past game against the Patriots as well. They just it's basically Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen on offense just making things happen. The run game is more or less non-existent. They're starting to get James Cook a little bit more involved. He needs to probably be more involved in the passing game in general. He's the reason why he's there. I mean, he was drafted to be the pass-catching running back, and he has the ability to be more of a workhorse guy. But they, rotate him and Latavius Murray in and out of there. I don't know what to tell you about the Bills. Josh Allen doesn't know what to tell you about the Bills, but they lost to the Patriots, who have been absolutely terrible all season long. Patriots are starting to get a little bit more healthy, so maybe you'll see them be a little bit more competitive moving forward. But the Bills drop it a very ugly game, and they're kind of reeling a little bit right now. And I think if I had to guess, they probably fix it and they probably figure it out. But like Josh Allen said, it's looking pretty bleak right now. Next game, Falcons versus Buccaneers. This was a big one, obviously, for the NFC South standings. Falcons, Buccaneers, both in there, vying for that number one spot in the division. And the Falcons get it done. And they get it done without Bijan Robinson. Right before the game, apparently there was a report that the night before the game, he said he wasn't feeling very well. I guess he had some kind of virus or something like that. He said he had a bad headache and was probably a little achy or something along those lines. And they basically more or less ruled him out of the game. I mean, he had one snap, and it was late in the fourth quarter, I guess, kind of when they needed him. Other than that, he did not play at all. It was all Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson. So the Falcons get it done against a Buccaneers team that I think it was or is better than the Falcons. It's just a very, very weird game. Desmond Ridder makes some plays here and there, and they get the job done. Tyler Algier had a pretty good game on the ground. But like I said, I mean, they get it done without Bijan Robinson, so that's not a good thing going forward for the Buccaneers and their chances to actually end up winning the NFC South. I still think they have a chance to do it, obviously. If you were to ask me, to predict the future 8 weeks from now, I would say probably the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the division potentially won in the NFC South. But right now, obviously, the Falcons are the NFC South number one team right now. So we'll see how it progresses as the season goes on. Obviously, the Panthers aren't going to get in the mix anytime soon. So those two teams right now are going back and forth, and the Falcons are at the top right now. Next game, Chiefs versus Chargers. Another division matchup here. We have an AFC West matchup. Rivals, obviously. Big game for the Chargers, who dropped a dud on, was that Monday night or Sunday? I think it was Monday night against the Cowboys. And they really should have won that game. A lot of missed opportunities in that game. I said that after the fact. It was kind of an ugly game from them. And then they come back and they drop another dud to the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs' offense was operating on all cylinders on this one. Travis Kelce had 130 yards on, or I think it was actually more than that. I think it might have been 170 or something crazy. I don't know. He went crazy, and they couldn't stop him. Patrick Mahomes was spreading the ball around to everybody. MVS got in on it. Rashee Rice, the rookie wide receiver, got in on it, which I like him a lot going forward. I think that's really going to be big for them if they can kind of hone in on their top three wide receivers. They trade for McCole Hardman back from the Jets, and he's going to get more involved, obviously, as the season progresses. I mean, he pretty much already knows the offense, but he's getting back into that role. But yeah, Chiefs continue to roll, look good. Patrick Mahomes, he's the guy. He's going to get you a win pretty much 80% of the time, unless something crazy happens. He turns the ball over a ton somehow or some way like that. But the thing with the Kansas City Chiefs right now is their defense is incredible. They're playing very, very well, and they've sustained some injuries as of late, but I think they have enough guys to kind of supplement that injury unluck, I should say. And it's just, the Chiefs are good. It is what it is. They're probably going to make it to the AFC Championship game again this year, and potentially get in there for the Super Bowl again. So they look good. Let's move on. Eagles versus Dolphins. This was, a lot of people are saying game of the year so far, at least before it happened. People thought this game was going to be crazy, just back and forth, shootout. Didn't exactly play out that way. It was in Philly, Sunday Night Football. Eagles are revealing the Kelly Greens. A lot of things going in the favor of the Eagles in this one because of that, other than a little bit of bad injury luck to the Eagles safety room. So they were a little bit banged up in that area. Otherwise, they're pretty healthy right now. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, they were dealing with some injuries going into this game. They had like 3 offensive linemen out. They had just Jalen Waddle in and out of the lineup throughout the game. He had some back issues in the game. And basically what it came down to was the Eagles stifled the number 1 rushing offense in all of football in the Dolphins. And once that happened, they kind of made the Dolphins one-dimensional and made Tua beat them. And they just couldn't get it done. The Eagles had a great defensive game plan going in. Sean Desai has been a godsend for the Eagles defense. He is light years better than Jonathan Gannon was last year. I would go as far as to say that if we had Sean Desai last year in the Super Bowl, we would win the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs last year. I think Jonathan Gannon was the number 1 reason why we didn't win that game. We had a 10-point lead at late in the game at halftime, and we just gave it away. Patrick Mahomes couldn't be stopped in the second half, and I really need to stop because I'm just going to keep going and rant about this forever. But anyways, the Eagles' defensive game plan against the Dolphins was perfect. They basically made Tua beat them, and he almost did. I mean, he had a chance there. They tied the ball game up at 17-17 in the second half there, and they were fighting obviously, but the Eagles on offense, what they were just able to do was just kind of calm the game down, run their offense the way they want to. Slow it down, run game, quick passes here and there to kind of neutralize the Dolphins' rushing attack or pass rush, I should say. And they were able to control the clock in the second half and still go down the field and score touchdowns, which was huge for them. Red zone has been a problem for the Eagles this far in the season, and they kind of shorted up a little bit in this game, which was good to see. They got Dallas Goedert more involved in it. Obviously, A.J. Brown now, he has I think it's 4 or 5 games in a row now with over 125 plus passing yards, which is, I think it ties a NFL history record. So he potentially could break a record this upcoming game against the Washington Commanders. But yeah, basically, in my opinion, what this game comes down to is the Dolphins, to me, are more of a finesse, fast team. When all the conditions are correct, when they're at home in Miami, hot, especially not in Philadelphia where it's a little bit colder, hostile environment there, the Dolphins offense can operate at a very high level because they're just faster and just they operate at a really high level with Mike McDaniel play designing and play calling and whatnot. The thing though is fast and small gets slower and smaller as the game goes on. And then in the case of the Eagles and other teams in the league, kind of like the San Francisco 49ers and stuff of that nature, they're more physical. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. They might not be as fast as a team like the Dolphins, but in this case, as the game goes on and it goes into the third and fourth quarter late in the game, a team that is strong and just basically physical, they're not going to get less physical and less strong and less big at the end of a game like the Dolphins, who are just all fast. They will get slower as the game goes on because they will become tired. So it's one of those situations where it's just strength versus speed, and strength pretty much wins out 8 times out of 10. You will have the games where the Dolphins will operate on all cylinders and they will just smoke you. But like I said, 8 times out of 10, a team that's more physical and bigger and stronger is going to win out in the end, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles right now at 6-1. Next game, Vikings versus 49ers. This was Monday Night Football. I'm doing this on Tuesday, so that was last night. I was watching the game. Obviously, I'm rooting for the 49ers to lose because I'm an Eagles fan, and I want the Eagles to have the 1 seed in the NFC moving forward. And that thing exactly happened. 49ers lose a game in Minneapolis. The Vikings come out, and they did not look afraid of the 49ers. That was, I feel like, one of the biggest things. They just came in, and they were just this is any other opponent. This is not one of the best teams in NFC. We're just going to go out and operate our offense without Justin Jefferson, without a really good run game. And Kirk Cousins just kind of carved up the 49ers defense. It was very interesting to watch. you're so used to seeing the 49ers run around. They're fast, they're physical, and just make plays on defense. And it looked like every single time that the pass rush got close to Kirk Cousins, he was able to get the ball out of his hands, and there was a guy open. And he was just carving those guys up. The run game was going pretty decent, but they still passed the ball like 50 times against the 49ers, which is, I think, usually a recipe for disaster for any offense trying to throw that many times against the 49ers defense, who's fast and physical, and they have good secondary players and a good pass rush. So dropping back that many times is usually just not very good for an offense, because usually Nick Bosa and that defensive line is going to get there in time and make life very difficult for an offense. But the Vikings, man, that TJ Hawkinson really got in there. Obviously, Jordan Addison had a ridiculous game. Caught a ball, ripped it out of Charvarius Ward's hands, and ran for a touchdown in one portion of the game there. Vikings just brought it to him. Obviously hindsight's 2020, but you're looking at it and you're like, the Vikings home dog, they're big time underdogs in this game. Like, I should have known they were going to come out and really fight. They still have a chance in the NFC North there, with all the other teams faltering basically. And it's just, the AFC or the NFC North can still be had by the Vikings if they turn things around completely. I mean, this is obviously a right step in the right direction. So Vikings get a huge W. 49ers drop a bad game again. This is 2 losses in a row. Brock Purdy looked more pedestrian in this one again. The Vikings do throw a lot of blitzes at you. Brian Flores is a guy that doesn't go by the regular rules of football, man. He will blitz you on first down, and then he'll blitz you on second down, and then he'll drop into coverage on third. He'll do it vice versa. He'll do it all different ways. There's not a rule book for the way Brian Flores will call blitzes and call a defense. And so it messes with your quarterbacks. It really does. And you can get caught up and lose a game to a Vikings team like this, just like the 49ers did. And Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions essentially to seal this game. And, bad loss, obviously, giving the 1 seed to the Eagles now is huge for the Eagles' confidence moving forward. They just need to basically beat them later on in the season, and they'll be good to go for the most part, especially now if the 49ers and Eagles end up with the same record late in the season. Obviously, their head-to-head matchup is going to be a huge thing. I think that's later on the season. It's in Philly, so that bodes well for the Eagles once again as well. But the Eagles have beat the Vikings, so the head-to-head matchup there, where if they do have that same record later, they'll have that one up on the 49ers moving forward. That's pretty much it for the Week 7 recap. Obviously, I didn't go through every game, but those were the main points of the Week 7. We will now preview Thursday Night Football. This is Buccaneers at the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, like I said, the Bills have been an absolute roller coaster this season. They've had high highs. They smoked the Dolphins at home. Had some really good explosive games. Had a really good explosive game against the Washington Commanders earlier in the season, and then have had just some lackluster performances. Obviously, they beat the Giants, but it didn't look good, and they dropped this game to the Patriots here, so they're a little bit up and down. Same kind of deal with the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers looked pretty strong to begin the season, then had a loss against the Eagles when they were 3-0, and they dropped to 3-1, obviously. And then they've been just kind of up and down since then. They lost to the Detroit Lions, and they've lost now to the Falcons as well. So Buccaneers are not going in the right direction. Bills really aren't going in the right direction. This is going to be a get-right game for somebody, obviously, in this matchup. The Bills are favored by 8.5 in this one. No real research, just basically I haven't really looked into this too much, but off the top of my head, just gut feeling, I will probably take the Buccaneers to cover. I think these teams are probably relatively evenly matched. I think probably the Bills are a better team. They have more upside, obviously, with Josh Allen being at the helm there for the Buffalo Bills. But the Buffalo Bills defense has been lackluster since they've had some injuries to Matt Milano and as well as Tre'Davious White. He's out for the season. So is Matt Milano. So and Ed Oliver was not in this past game. They missed him against the Patriots. That might have really moved the needle for them last week. But they're dealing with some injuries. These teams are a little bit more evenly matched than I would have thought going into the season. But like I said, I'll take the Buccaneers and the points at 8.5. The over-under on this one is at 42, and more than the spread and picking the Buccaneers to cover there, I like the over in this game at over 42. I just feel like this is going to be a game, like I said, injuries on the side of the Bills, the Buccaneers can expose that. The Buccaneers defense has been just okay this season. And obviously, any given Sunday, the Bills can explode for a bunch of points because when Josh Allen gets going, he gets the ball to Stephon Diggs and James Cook is in the passing game and whatnot. Like, they can score some points. Gabe Davis will have his boom and bust games, but when he booms, he can have 2-3 touchdowns in a game. So I like the over on this one. I think both offenses will probably bounce back in this game, and the defenses are just okay. So I think there's going to be a lot of room for scoring in this one. That pretty much wraps it up for this episode of Coordinated Chaos. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on TikTok and all the good stuff there. Turn on the notification bell so you know when I drop my my betting predictions, any kind of fantasy football videos and stuff of that nature. I've been pretty lucky this season with some of my fantasy football predictions, so just follow me on there and watch out for those videos, and I will talk to you guys next week. Peace.